Planning and Zoning meeting to order. Would you all please stand and say the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Pam, can you take roll, please?
Joe Dolby,
Here.
Jim Garrison, Lloyd Horton, Nancy Matson, Rory Pagan, Tom Tilla,
Here.
Tom Searing,
Here.
Paul Nygren. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the agenda as it was posted or sent out to us.
I move we approve the agenda as written.
I'll second it. Motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any additions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is approval of the planning and zoning minutes from August 20th, 24. They were also on our emails, whatever.
I move we approve those minutes as written.
I'll second it. Moved and seconded to approve. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, number 3, approval of the joint planning and zoning and town board meeting on August 20th, 2024. Again, they were distributed.
I move we approve those minutes as written.
I'll second it. Moved and seconded. Any additions or corrections? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 here, we recess. Is there a motion to recess this meeting to go to the public hearing?
I'll move that we recess this meeting to go to the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to recess. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I'm missing Nancy here. She's supposed to read this. Well, I guess I can handle it. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing shall be held before the Linwood Township Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at Linwood Township Town Hall, located at 22817 Typo Creek Drive, Northeast, regarding the following matter. To consider an application by Sanford Broadbent, Yvonne Broadbent, for the proposed rezoning of 7227 Viking Boulevard Northeast, PID number 09-33-22-14-0008, from residential agriculture RA to business B. As such, both written and oral comments will be heard at the Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation to the Township Board of Supervisors for their consideration. Contact Linwood Township at 651-462-2812 with any questions or concerns. The public hearing is open. Is there comments from the general public?
Okay, first off, I'm a person that won't speak in front of the public, so it's that important that I do this.
Is the microphone on?
I believe it is.
Sorry,
Okay.
dude.
Your name, please, name and
My
address.
name is Diana Puffer, 21925 Martin Lake Road, Northeast. We're talking about the landowners. They want the U.S. site work excavating contract to leave all their equipment there, which means dump trucks, backhoes, front end loaders, dozers, semi trucks, tank basins, mass grading, metal tubes, etc. The fluids from the equipment will leak into the ground, which is toxic. All that equipment sits there from late fall through winter and into early spring. All that runoff from the melting snow can run into the wetlands. Do we want this negative impact on the wetlands and environment? The soil will be toxic for animals and plants. Everyone uses well water in their households every day. How about the air pollution? We hope the landowners would care enough about the environment and air to at least have someone do an impact study. It's extremely noisy, moving all that equipment and stuff around. The beeping noise from backing up, the tailgate slamming are awful to listen to. The noise can start at 6 a.m. in the morning to well into the evening, and that's like every day of the week. It's not like every day, but it can be any day of the week. We say that our land value will go down, and this isn't helping the community. It's also awful to look at when you're driving by. People always make a comment, you know, they'll come to our house and they'll ask, what's going on with the corner? You see all that stuff sitting there. All right, this company, the US Site Work, they drive their semi hauling the heavy equipment down Martin Lake Road. What about weight restrictions? There is a sign posted on Martin Lake Road that says no through traffic with trucks. We've seen where the semi with their logo drive down Martin Lake Road with their equipment on it, and you're not really supposed to. Is there a conflict of interest when one of the commission members of Linwood Township's name is also the vice president of the company US Site Work? Is it a conflict that across the street from this building, there's a memorial park that is named Broadbent, and that's the last name of the person that wants the application of rezoning. My last statement would be, would you want this in your front yard? Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment from the floor? Okay.
Hello, my name is Sandra Hawkinson. I'm at 7421 220th Avenue Northeast. I live approximately half a mile right behind and down the hill from where this proposed site is going to be. I support the comments that Diane Puffer made. Both my husband and I are very concerned about the wetlands and the impact that has on our private wells. As you know, we have Tamarack Lake behind us, and it seems to me that this has a potential negative impact on our water table, particularly from the storage of the machinery and so forth that happens in the fall and winter months. I'm also concerned about the change in zoning from from residential to business, when this is a very residential area. I'm concerned that it will indeed affect our land values and our ability to have appropriate resale when that's such a visible presence on 22. And it opens the door for additional development of business in that area, which already has heavy traffic. And if you've been at the intersection of Thames and 22, you know that you're kind of taking your hands in your life when you try to turn north or south on Thames from that area, which is a quarter mile away from this proposed site. So I would also support the idea of an environmental impact statement. It seems to me it's negligent not to even have that in hand before this comes forward for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes or no?
Go ahead. Most of us know you, but give your name and address.
Gary Whitrick, 22946 Fontana. Highway 26 is a disaster. There's more noise projected off of there than any farm machinery I've ever heard. There's potholes in there big enough to almost hide a school bus in. There's tarp tracks all the way across, expansion tracks. when I go past my old place, I can't carry on a conversation with our family, especially sitting outside. It actually rattles the windows when cars go by pulling a trailer or a pickup truck or motorcycles especially, because that's an uphill grade and that's an acceleration lane. So noise shouldn't even enter into this project. Highway 22, 1,000 cars a day go by there. Let's talk about noise pollution. Let's get to the root of it. As far as petroleum leakage, anybody that's any familiar at all with construction equipment knows that's very expensive. It gets repaired as soon as it's caught. And it's not caught while it's sitting there, it's caught out on the job. Anybody that's familiar with heavy equipment knows that. I lived in that house for 36 years. My well is just as fine and dandy. I live next door to a farm. Do farmers pollute? Is manure a pollutant? Did the landowner, did his tractors leak fuel into the ground? My well is as good as the day I drove it down, as well as others. I don't think it happened in 1 year. It's happened, it's gonna take a long time. So I guess what I would say, and I would go along with the lady that says an environmental study would probably be in order, but I think it's a waste of money. And as far as tailgates banging and all that stuff, they don't move dirt over there, they just store equipment. That's all. You can laugh all you want, but I got the floor, okay? I mean, let's be real about things here. If you're not used to heavy equipment, study it, learn about it.
Any other impact from the public?
I would just like to say, I just wanna say that comparing some of the farm equipment to what they have is like 80% more. It's not even apples and oranges comparing it to. How much equipment do you guys have? You guys know how much they're gonna move there, the backhoes, the dozers. I mean, last year and the year before, that whole area was full of equipment. I mean, full. And I don't know of any farms that have that much equipment. I'm sorry. I don't know, you'd have to prove it to me. I don't know, because there's a lot of equipment, isn't there? Can I ask why they want this done? What's the purpose of it? It's not helping the community, it's only helping them, I would say. Not to be mean.
They were
but-
notified by the township that they were out of compliance with the zoning because
Okay.
of the storage of equipment, and they're making an attempt to come into compliance. That area along 22 or Viking Boulevard and Martin Lake Road has been earmarked as an area for business development by the Planning Commission and through our comprehensive plan. So what they're asking for is consistent with what we have looked at for years. And not just, I'm talking 10 years ago. This all came around a long time ago about different areas that would be appropriate for business development.
Okay.
And the fact that they got that there, when the equipment started showing up, I'm talking out of turn maybe, but when the equipment started showing up, I thought, okay, who's got the big farm operation? Because it was big construction equipment. Some of that stuff is used today in farming, the big tractors and stuff, it's used in farming. Right across the road from that, where they got the beans and the cornfields, it's farm country, okay? So that didn't surprise me. Yes, there's been an increase in the amount of equipment that's in there. They do not work there, it's storing equipment, and I guess,
Yeah,
we can talk about this when we get into the regular meeting. But as far as why this came up, it was a concern that they were out of compliance with the RA, the agricultural use of the property. And a property owner was sent notice about this, and that's why it's in front of us right now.
well, I believe why that happened, we were trying to be nice neighbors. This has been going on for, 3 years? We thought, well, they're just gonna store some stuff there, no big deal. you know, we're neighbors, we'll be neighborly, and then the next year, there's more and more, and we're thinking, this isn't just storing for a little while, and then all of a sudden, it was full, you know. And then, I don't know, it's just really frustrating, cause I feel like, you know, a good neighbor, being taken advantage of.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi there. My name is Nathan Thompson. I live at 2143 Martin Lake Road, so several hundred yards from the proposed site. So to echo some other comments about environmental impact, I think that's critical for this project. Just this day and age, whether you believe it or not, climate change or whatever your affiliation is, it's important to have environmental impact studies done on any kind of business. It's smart business. Speaking of smart business, I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but when a business is out of compliance, that raises a lot of red flags to me. So they're out of compliance on this. What else are they out of compliance on? Some gentleman spoke about maintaining equipment. I grew up on a farm. My dad's a professional driver, drives school buses, dump trucks. So I'm familiar with that process. You don't do preventative maintenance. That's where those leaks and those spills come from. Are they doing that? Don't know. They say they are, but they're also in a spot where they weren't really supposed to be. We don't know if that's intentional or not. I also have some concerns about safety. Martin Lake Road's really busy. I watch kids go by on motorbikes. I watch people drive into Island Lake Park with boats. 22 Viking Boulevard, holy cow, that's a major highway. Are we backing out heavy equipment onto that? Are we gonna have to change that intersection? I don't know, what's the impact there? I'm also curious about the business owner's future expansion or future business plan. I received a letter at my home. It didn't say anything about the business. I didn't go online and maybe they had a website or something, but if there's a business plan in place looking for a full expansion, it sounds like other neighbors, there's some expanding business going on, so what's the impact there? Personally, I also heard it a few hundred yards down. I work from home primarily, work out of my home office, and I can feel it rumbling. I can be on calls with customers and I'm like, what's going on? Kind of sounds like an earthquake. So more of a nuisance. I understand business, I understand people are trying to make money here, but courtesy to the neighborhood, like, where are we going with this? That intersection is terrible. What are we doing? I'm just not really seeing a whole lot of that. If it's out there, please direct it to us so we can maybe make some better decisions. But at this point, I'm seeing somebody who's out of compliance. They're getting their hands slapped. They're asking for a favor. And here we are, this hearing. That's what I see here, so.
Any other public input?
My name is Matthew Kallenberg. I live at 21861 Martin Lake Road Northeast. I guess I just want to echo what Diane said as far as my biggest concern is property value. I just moved into that house almost right next door to where these guys are renting, and it wasn't like that when I bought it, and if it would have been the way it is now, I wouldn't have bought the house. So now my concern is resale of the house. So, you know, what it's gonna be like in 5 years from now, or whatever the farm's gonna be in 5 years, how is it gonna look? Everybody who comes over is kinda like, you know, what's going on over there, and it was just some kind of an old farmyard when I bought the house, so, I guess I do have a little bit of concern with how it's gonna move going forward.
Ed Kramer here, and I gotta go back to what Joe was saying. I remember I was on the planning and zoning, I was on the board, and this has been on record for many years. And with the Metro Council and stuff like that, that they wanted us to determine some business areas. And that was one of the spots right there that was always picked up as becoming a business area.
Other public comment?
I'm Pat Warwick, I live at 22717, Martin Lake Road. I think one of the concerns I have, and I can take in everybody's concern that they have, I get it. You know, we range from money to noise, the pollution and everything, but I think this whole thing is too vague, you know? So you mentioned that you have it in, it's slated maybe for business over there, great. You know, but what's exactly this plan that he wants to do? He wants to store equipment there for now, but then what? I mean, is there a master plan on exactly what's going to happen here besides storing equipment? He's got 10 acres there. So he's got a large area that are you zoning the whole area, the whole 10 acres as business B? And what exactly, can you tell me what business B defines? Is it stores, or does that mean car dealerships or junkyards? I mean, what does business B?
Our ordinance regarding business is very broad. It doesn't define what can be done. Along with this, what staff recommendation has come up with, if we approve this rezoning, there would be an application for an interim use permit that would better define the use of what they plan to do with the property. Then the details could be worked out. As you talk about 10 acres, I've toured the property, I've looked at it. As far as pollution, it ain't happening. There's nothing there. And I've dealt with an auto repair business for 50 years, so I know what about EPA and all the crap that goes along with that. These contractors, truck drivers, whatever, they're held under such scrutiny nowadays, they can't get by with any leaks on stuff. It just doesn't happen. If there's a leak somewhere, the whole country will know about it. So I'm not worried about the pollution aspect of it. I'm speaking from my own self, I was on the property today. Mr. Broadbent has wells around the property that were put in years ago for inspecting for soil water, surface water penetration and stuff. They've been looked at. So there is, as far as from his farming operation from years back, so there is some monitoring that has happened on that over the years. The surface water, the runoff, there's retention ponds that are built in the way it's draining off. There is swale areas where stuff can sediment into. It meets everything that way that I've seen. As far as the long-term plan, I can't speak to that because I don't know. And yet we can limit it. If an interim use permit is granted, then we can put conditions on what would be allowed, what wouldn't be allowed, what scrutiny would come into play on it. That's to be determined. As far as the rezoning of it, it would bring it into at least a category that we can control better than we can with the RA zoning that it currently has.
And I totally get that, Mr. Duffy. I totally agree. I understand what you're saying there. I went on their website. You know what? They got a lot of fluff on their website. They do, what do I want to say? I was just like toxic removal. I mean, they sound like a very environmental company. So I'm not going to dispute that. I don't want to dispute that with the caliber of the pollution or anything. Okay, I don't want to go there. My thing is that there should be some sort of environmental impact done, study on it. You know, you have traffic, you mentioned traffic. You know what, I'm kind of, sometimes in the morning when I go out on 22, I like an acceleration ramp to get onto the road. Because it's so busy out there, you can have 20 cars in a row going both ways. And they don't do 55, what's in a minute? How many of them do 55? Not too many. You know, so now we have extra traffic going in and out. Are they gonna be going in off our Martin Lake Road, or are they going on in off of 22? I mean, those are all studies, those are all things that we need to take into consideration. And I think it would ease a lot of people's minds if it can be zeroed down a little bit better. That's all. It's just too vague, in my opinion.
public comment?
My name's Bob Patterny, 21830 Thames Street East. So I'm about a quarter, half mile away. I guess I kind of agree with the last couple guys there. Vagueness, I mean, you know, a lot of people these days get pretty vague answers, I guess, from government, and everyone's kind of left, you know, in the dark on a lot of things these days, and all of a sudden we find out, you know, it's too late because of the vague answers, like all the 3M stuff and all that. This isn't 3M, but I guess when you say the whole world finds out if there's toxic leaks or stuff like that, I've been on plenty of DOT sites, they can't even sell. And also I've seen some massive fuel spills, in-ground fuel tanks leak, and that gets hush hush. I mean, that don't go out to anybody unless something really goes crying. But I guess I would like to know what's the long-term plan as well. I could see it affecting property value, things like that. I get business too, I totally get it. It's there's a balance there, but yeah, there's a lot more going on there. You know, are they gonna be digging gravel pits there in a couple of years? Are they gonna be putting in fuel island tanks? I mean, what is the long-term plan for that property? That's one of the big things to know, because you start putting all that stuff in, you got a heavy equipment operation there. If they turn that into a little facility, then yeah, you got groundwater issues long-term. I can definitely see that. I've seen that in plenty of places, getting soil tests, and everywhere around those heavy equipment facilities, the ground is just shot. And once homeowners start finding out property values go down, no one wants to live next to that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Other gentleman in the back, would you like to speak?
Dan Babineau, 22275 Martin Lake Road. I'd like to see Buck and Yvonne be able to enjoy some of the retirement, because I know Buck is no longer able to farm, and this is a good use of the land for him. I agree with you that the environmental study is just government overreach, and it's not gonna prove anything. Yes, if there's diesel fuel, I mean, that's the most toxic substance there. That's been leaking out of tractors for eons on that property, I guarantee it. Buck and Yvonne have been fantastic neighbors, and I'm sure that they're not gonna turn it into a gravel pit or further degrade the area, because I mean, the Broadbent family's been there for probably eons as well. So I would approve, I would motion that they can approve it for business, even though, you know, my property is relatively close. I'm not hearing the backup noise. There is a lot of equipment there, but in the long term, I can't imagine that property, especially if it's business, value degrading such that they'd be able to continue to use it for just storage of equipment. It's probably gonna turn into some other type of commercial property, more in line with what the whole counties or all the counties are managed by Met Council, thank you, because that's where they said that you guys need to come up with some commercial property within the township. And I mean, where would they, I mean, if it does turn into some big commercial island, I mean, where are they gonna put the sewer? Well, there's no sewer services there, there's no way to get it there either. So, long term, I'm not worried about it either. Yes, there'll be a lot of traffic. Yes, they'll probably be getting some citations issued if they go down Martin Lake Road with that equipment, because there's other ways around. Do they have access, which I'm not even sure which driveway they're planning on using, probably the one that's for the barn now, which is directly onto 22 anyway. So I can't imagine that they would be using Martin Lake Road other than a shortcut for some of the drivers. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Other public comment?
Stick Puffer, my wife's Diana. The noise ordinance is real. Yeah, 22, or Martin Lake Road is noisy. We set out Saturday, or Sunday night. They were well past the noise curfew. Banging, backing up, all kinds of noise. It's all the time. I work from home also. I hear this all day long. The noise is real. And who's to say when they spill some diesel, they don't take some barrel there. When's the last time that those wells were checked? This has only been going on for 3 years. So it's gonna take a while. How deep is that well? 50, 100 feet? There's a lot of questions around the environment, and I really, really think that you need to do at least a study to validate and, you know, take care of everybody's concerns that this is an environmental problem.
Other public input? Rory, I don't wanna put you under the microscope, but you're the contractor or the person that's involved in it. If you could add input and do something to the conversation that maybe satisfies some of the concerns.
I think the noise is a concern, I get that, I totally do, and I can guarantee you on Sunday, there was nobody there. I watched that place, so we'll just leave it at that, but I watched that place continuously, because I live in Linwood Township, I've been here for 56 years, and I'm not gonna do anything or let anything happen. Buck, I've known all my life, but just to clarify things, a phase 1 study will be done. They come in, and typically you won't even have to do that. And that phase 1 study consists of them coming out there, telling you the last 5 years of what's happened on that site. Buck and Yvonne also will want that, because if US Site Work leaves, they would be held responsible. So as a landowner, that's why you do them kind of things. And it's not, I mean, they'll come out there, they'll do that study, it's not a big deal. It's not. And then as far as air pollutants go, they would laugh me out the door if I told them to go out there and do air pollutants, because you can't get, he said, if you live next to a factory that builds something or does something, that's the only way possible they would even monitor it. They said, you're not gonna get any air pollutants out there from storing equipment.
Are you willing to give me your phone number so I can call you
You
Sunday after 6 o'clock and tell you, hey, they're
Yeah.
out there banging,
Yeah,
playing?
I wish you would. I mean, you said you wanna be good neighbors, I never heard a word about it. I mean, you know,
Well,
people can also talk, I
I don't wanna
mean,
just come at you because.
no, it's not coming
like,
at me, I
"Hey,
don't want them
Rory,
guys.
You're on the board and you're vice president and.
That doesn't mean anything. We don't wanna
Well, I
do
don't
anything
know.
that makes
We don't
anybody
know.
mad, and believe me, Buck and Yvonne probably know, I police that place a lot, I'm over there a lot. And I'm not just one of the guys that just say, yeah, that's going on over there. We store the equipment there, it leaves, I mean, we own one dump truck, and it's been in North Dakota it comes home sometimes, but it's been in North Dakota all summer. One low boy, you know, the rest is just equipment's there. And I will say, some of the equipment, when we move a bulldozer around there, a dozer, a big backhoe, I'm not gonna, they're big, you know what I mean? They're gonna shake the ground. We do no dirt work over there. The only thing we've done so far is just try to make it a little bit better for storage. Most of the stuff sits on gravel over there. We do no bulk fuels there. No fuels get delivered there to our equipment. They're all fueled out on the job sites. And I disagree with the guy who thinks that, you know, everybody just kicks it around. We take our machines, if there is a drip on it, that machine is removed from the job site, and I can show you that.
Well,
you
from
know.
the job site, but what about when it's sitting there, from fall through winter, through the.
They just don't
beginning
drip
of-
for something to do. It's a leak,
Well,
and we would fix
I
it,
mean,
you
you
know.
got brake fluid, I don't know, see, I'm not aware, don't know about machinery
Well, I can
and stuff,
educate you
but
if
I
you need
know
to. I mean-
diesel would leak and the
Right, I
brake
understand.
fluid would leak and, I've seen it and they're all dirty and they come back, okay, now the snow is gonna be on it and all that is just gonna melt and then go into the ground is what I see. so, and then it travels.
I've done a lot of home construction, and every piece of land that I've ever seen has fuel leak, they leak, it happens. You don't catch it the second it happens, but it happens. You can't guarantee me in any way that that will not occur on that property.
There will be no large leaks. I can guarantee you that.
How?
Well, I should say I was a licensed smokestack breeder. I know about the EPA and I know about the rules, okay? I was certified by the Minnesota EPA.
Well, that's great.
I understand all of these rules and it's there, it happens. And the guy that accidentally dumped 20 gallons or whatever, he's gonna cover it up before he comes over and says, oh, I'm sorry, I spilled this. It happens.
We have dumpsters there for anything to go into. There's not even any tires over there anymore. There was more tires there when I moved there. We probably removed 400 tires out of there. And there's constantly stuff, all that, there's 3 dumpsters there all the time for metal, recyclable, all that stuff. I mean, as far as traffic on that road, they shouldn't be going down that road with a big truck, and I know that low boy wouldn't, but it might be a pickup truck and a trailer on it.
I've seen the big tractors go up and down the road, the big red ones.
The big red tractors?
The one on the, semi, where they're.
No, the actual big tractors that go up and down the road. I've seen
Them tractors are in Indiana and they've been there, so I don't think you would've seen that this year.
I didn't say when, but I've seen it happen.
I don't know where they would've been going with one of the tractors. And it's not illegal to drive a tractor down the road.
That big tractor? It's a little heavy. I don't wanna argue with you.
No, I'm not,
just saying that
I'm
this
very
stuff
concerned if
occurs.
one of our tractors are driving down the road.
I've seen it, go up.
There's a farming operation across the road that uses big equipment too. I mean, with the Broadbent Farm and Carlisle's farm, there's other farm equipment, farm activity going on. So to say that this has to do with the construction company, you'd have to, whatever, prove it to somebody, and it really doesn't matter. They're not harming anything. As far as a fuel spill or an oil spill, in my experience, at my own business up there, if something hits the ground and it's contaminated, it gets dug up and hauled away. And they would do the same, because they have to protect the property. And like he said, the phase 1 thing, that's only protecting the property owner, so that down the road, whoever is responsible for the contamination gets held accountable. That I don't think is a big issue at all, because in this day and age, nobody gets by with much of anything without it being on the network, okay? And I don't think the pollution thing is a big factor. The storage of equipment, in the wintertime, the lot's full, okay? Right now, there isn't much over there. I went on the property today, went around, looked at stuff, the drainage, the stuff, it's being managed and handled well for what it is. I just don't see this being a factor, but, Mr. Pillar.
You know, it's our job to go and look at these permits before we grant them, to make sure they're legitimate. And Joe was over there today, I was over there on Friday, walking around, about got an hour tour of the property. The property is amazingly clean for what it is. There's hardly any equipment in there, but what impressed me the most is the complaints about the noise, because on the south side of the property, there's a huge berm that they built. You can't see the equipment when you're driving down 22. In the winter you can, but right now the foliage is up, you can't see in there except for where the gate is between berm. You go on to the west side and there's a double line of trees that you can look through it, but it's not very clear. On the north side, there's a smaller berm than the berm on the south side. But Rory said they were talking about building that higher to cut the noise down and building it longer to the east. And then on the east side of the property, there's the farm. So they've done an amazing job of keeping that place clean. And Buck pointed out the wells at the sample, there's 5 of them, where they can test the water surface. And it fits into the code. And 2 months ago, we were talking about what land in Linwood is available for commercial. And Buck's property was one of the prime locations that we were talking about, and our concern was, we don't wanna just rezone it to business without the approval of the property owner. And here we got a property owner coming forward wanting to have it changed to business. I think we need to grab on to it and take advantage of it. If you know Buck, he is amazingly clean in his farming operation, so.
Tom Searing.
I hate to admit my naivety, but can somebody explain to me exactly what is an environmental impact study, who would do it, how much it would cost?
Again, I mean, basically, they would do a phase 1 study, and typically it's done when the property is sold to somebody else, but we would just do it anyways, because I want to make sure Buck isn't ever liable for anything neither. So they would come out, phase 1 study, they'll test the ground all over, check everything, look for anything on that property, and they can tell within the last 5 years even, if there's been, any large amounts of oil. I mean, they might not find a drip, but that isn't concern of them. They do a phase study like that, they range anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for that study.
Who is they, Rory?
They're engineers, like Pinnacle
private
Engineers,
engineering
private companies, basically just get a private company come out, they're independent, so they do it themselves. We don't have anything to do with that. And then it's good because then if US Site Work would leave that property, then Buck and Yvonne, then they have that, and you do it again when they leave. And then, or they can be done in between even if you need to, and then when they leave, then they're left with a clean site, I've probably worked on the largest Superfund sites in the state cleaning up stuff. And I mean, I know what it's like, you know what I mean? I've seen what's there, and I don't want no part of that, of contaminating anything, and I do, we just wanna make it better over there. I mean, Buck and I mean, he's out there as much as he can, and we try to keep things as clean as possible. And we want to do a little bit more to even clean stuff up. It's not that there's some large building going in there that isn't the plan, now. It's just like, now's the time. Linwood wants some commercial land, Buck has it. It's probably not a super long-term thing there, I mean, it'll be there for a long time, but Buck and Yvonne, they may decide to sell and something else there someday. I mean, we definitely don't want to create any problems anywhere, what I mean? I mean, since we've got the complaint, believe me, I've come down on them guys. I mean, I've said, nobody, moves around there, keep it quiet. Just, I mean, and I might be to blame. I'm over there picking up hay bales sometimes, and that's on a Sunday, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm, there might be some people moving around early and stuff like that, but, I mean, we'll try the hardest we can, and we've talked about things we can do to make it better, build the berm, some fence along the road so you don't see any of it, you know what I mean? And we're willing to do whatever, to make it be a better place, there.
As far as the environmental stuff and that, again, I had my shop there for over 50 years. And I had something done. Somebody accused me of dumping oil on the property. And they put test wells upstream on the ditch behind my shop and downstream by the lake to test what was coming from my property. It sat there for 3 years and checked it. And I spent, I don't know, $1,500, $2,000 for an engineering company, a chemistry thing, to do this testing to prove that I was doing nothing wrong. And with the purple swirls where they were coming out in the lake was just decaying vegetation. They said it was oil from things. It was just decaying vegetation. There wasn't, but I had to go through the whole thing. It was back in the 80s. So I've been through the gambit on it. And a lot of this stuff is paranoia from people that are, again, and a lot has changed in the last 20 years as far as environmental protection. I know that. And these companies like he's got, they're under scrutiny all the time. They can't drop much anything on a job site without somebody knowing about it. And again, it isn't like he's operating his thing. He doesn't have a gravel pit, never gonna have one, more than likely. There's no gravel on that property. But it's just a matter of when there is something, he'll take care of it. I wouldn't, and if, I don't know how long term, Again, he may outgrow that property in no time at all, I don't know. This is the way business has changed, but if it's zoned for business, it is an area that we had earmarked for business development. It would be good to have it zoned that way, and then it could come under more scrutiny than just RA like it currently is zoned.
Right.
And I think it would be accommodating to the, maybe not accommodating to the neighbors, but it would comply more with what we're looking at as far as zoning in our township. And maybe I'm on the wrong side of it, but I think that it's appropriate for us to move forward, but that'll come up in the next phase of the meeting. So. Other public comment?
Yeah, what types of businesses are you looking to attract to Linwood? Because there's a lot of unknown. I heard about 4 or 5 people say, what's the future plan? I heard the gentleman mention we have plans. We haven't seen documents.
When this got brought up last spring
Yeah,
about business development, there's a lot of things that could happen with business development in Linwood. They said, wait until somebody comes with a proposal and we'll build it from there. That's being reactive to stuff. Zoning stuff ahead of time makes us proactive to where we can actually designate what type of businesses for what areas. And that's what, I guess, us as planning and zoning should be looking at as far as future zoning, long-term planning. This sets a stage for some. Again, I think it was March or April, it came up in a meeting, maybe April. And there was people offended by the fact that we wanted to zone their property without asking the property owners. I think that the township needs to go forward. We can ask the property owner to rezone something, but some of the attitude was, wait till a developer comes in and throws it at the property owner and then see about rezoning. A lot of business developers and stuff don't want to wait that long. It takes months and months, maybe years to get rezoning done. And if we were to zone certain areas with business capability, it would help things move forward for other development. What type of businesses? Again, it's probably gonna be some retail businesses and stuff. This is gonna be more like an industrial thing. What they're proposing here, what it's being used at actually is industrial. I just think that as far as traffic and stuff and the use of the property, if there gets to be a traffic problem, a congestion problem, the county's gonna dictate you gotta put in turn lanes, bypass lanes, widen the highway. The 2050 plan for Anoka County calls for 22 being a 4-lane all the way from Elk River clean over to 35. So that's what the 2050 plan is for Viking Boulevard. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but that is what was proposed. That's gonna make a major impact as far as traffic patterns and other things. Again, this is all stuff that I've seen evolving over the last 20 years. It may happen, it may not, depends on what the growth patterns are for the township, for the North Metro. But this is the stuff that if we don't look towards the future a ways out, we're not gonna be ready for it. It's gonna fall in our lap, and then somebody's gonna throw something at us that we don't have any regulation on. And that will happen, it has happened.
I appreciate hearing about your future plans, but I think the question was, what plans exist now in terms of development here in Linwood? And I would appreciate knowing that as well. In
None.
terms of business. None. None.
Business
nowhere other than
development, it
this
got
site.
turned down by the town board here last spring. They said just leave it alone. And believe me, planning and zoning worked on stuff, tried to get areas designated for business development, and the town board went thumbs down on it. So right now, as far as what type of development, there's none. Okay. That's my opinion. Maybe the planning commission, other members can add to it, but that's what I believe came out of the conversation last spring.
Can I ask how this is gonna help the community, I guess?
Tax-wise?
The business, I don't understand why it's helping us.
Businesses are taxed at a much higher rate than residential.
That business is out of Elk River. This is just a rental of land.
Property is taxed based on the usage of the property. The taxes are based on the usage of the property, not where the company is based out of. It's the use of the property. I've had, never mind where I am. There is a benefit as far as tax stuff. You don't get the homestead credit on commercial property. you're taxed at a higher rate, and so there is some tax benefit from, real estate tax benefit on that. And you'd have to come to the assessors meeting in May or April, whatever, and have them explain it all to you. But you may not agree with it, but they explain it pretty well. So any other comments for the public hearing?
Can you explain what an interim use plan would mean? You mentioned something about limiting what businesses would happen there. So let's say that we do rezone this lot and a gas station wants to build there, or we want to open another Dollar General. Would that be limited by this interim land use? I think, again, going back to these comments, there's no plan, and it sounds like we're just gonna rezone this as business and then hope for the best, and I don't see how that's very
Susan, can I refer to
successful.
you on that topic, please?
The interim use permit actually, it would not be a conditional use permit, it would be an interim use permit, which means that if the property were to sell or the current use of the property as far as business ceased, that permit would be done.
Would it still be zoned as business?
It would still be zoned as business, but that
Okay.
particular use would be completed. So if another business wanted to come in, they would have to then go through either a conditional use permit application or an interim use permit application for their proposed business use.
Susan is our zoning administrator, that's why I referred to her, because it's coming from the proper source there, so, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Tom and Tom. To close the public hearing, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we will reconvene the regular planning and zoning meeting, discuss and act on rezoning application for the previous public hearing. You've heard the public comments. The business zoning of it, if it is rezoned business, what activity goes on in there can be handled or scrutinized, I guess, by the interim use permit. The fact that it's business zoning doesn't, define what the use of the property would be. It'll have to be discussed at the time of the interim use permit, which again would be another public hearing. So, is that right, Susan?
That's right.
Okay. Just trying to keep everything in order here. So, but with any business property, even like where my shop is, if I have a change of ownership, change of operation, they need to come to the township in order to get approval of it, because of the change of operations, and that's the way the ordinance is set up. Mr. Pelham.
I'd like to, based on the staff recommendation and our observations, and I want you folks to know that we hear what you're saying. We actually went out and looked at it, but we make the recommendation to the town board. The town board ultimately makes the final decision. So, based on the staff recommendation, I would like to recommend to the town board that we change the zone map of 7227 Viking Boulevard from RA to business with the following condition. They obtain an interim use permit to continue the open and outdoor stores of heavy equipment and materials.
For the sake of the vote, I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. The other thing that was under the staff recommendation was adopt the staff report in the record. That's part of your motion? I think most of us, all of us have got this on our summary sheet here about what the staff recommendations, and it follows what we have discussed over the years as far as business development. So I think zoning this to business property is a good thing for the township. As far as what type of conditions are put on it, that'll have to come up under the interim use permit part of it. Okay? That's where we're at. Moved and seconded to recommend changing it to RA to B zoning. More discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of said
I do
motion?
have one comment, Joe.
Yes, sir, Tom.
I just wanna make sure that everybody knows that the next step is they have to get an interim use permit.
If the town board approves our
Yeah, if
recommendation.
the town board
Yeah.
approves it, yeah.
The property owner, I believe, is aware of that. He saw the recommendations, so. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Rory, you abstain? No, you didn't,
Yes,
Are you
you
going to
abstain.
just abstain for the record, please. Okay. On to the town board from here then with this. Next item, old business. None. New business, Metropolitan Council Sector Representative and Imagine 2050. Pam Maddie emailed me about that, and I said, well, I'd like to see us meet with the Metropolitan Council representative, but it would have to be up to the planning commission as a whole. Do we want to meet with them or not? Is there a motion to set up an appointment? It could have happened this month, but I didn't want to take it upon myself to say, yeah, come in. I'd rather have some majority here. So if the planning commission would make a motion to schedule that meeting for October, it can probably happen. Is that correct, Pam? Okay.
I move we, do that.
What did I say?
What he said, yeah.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, moved and seconded to meet with the representative for the Met Council. Any further discussion? This Imagine 2050, I filled out a questionnaire back in January, and it's an ongoing thing looking at long-term development. But again, Imagine 2050, what do we want our community to look like by the 2050 and years and time, so. And maybe they can give us some input, some stuff where what we can do, what resources they have to help us develop a plan. Anyway, set it up for the October meeting. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Rural Communities Workshop. That was in your packet too. That I don't know anything about.
That's another announcement Pam received that she wanted to be sure P and Z got,
Okay.
in case you were interested in attending.
Okay. That's an off-site meeting type of thing. so.
It is, it's all on that sheet of paper if you wanna take it with you and consider it, or if any of you are interested in attending, you can let us know.
That was at Schaefer or something, wasn't it?
Center City.
Center City? Okay, I thought it was, I don't know what it would entail, but it had to do with local rural communities and, again, development plans or whatever. So if you're interested, contact the office or contact whatever's on that sheet of paper. Okay? Oh, it's on September, this is September 30th, okay. Well, a lot of it has to do with watershed stuff and that, there are different watersheds. That's what most of it has to do with as far as the St. Clair Valley watershed and all the other tributaries that go into it, so. Okay. Staff and zoning administrator reports. Back to you, Susan.
I have nothing.
Enough said. What do I got left? Adjournment. Is there any other business?
I'll move we adjourn. I second
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
it. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.